right, welcome back, guys. We are here for our second color rating. We're going to be doing 1 through 5, just like before. Yanks is on the call with us again. Let's go ahead and just start right away so we can try to keep this under an hour. So we have a 5 mana 3/4, the Mind Sorcerer. I don't have my page up right. I lost it. It's gone.
So it's a 5 mana 3/4. When it enters the battlefield, choose target insert sorcery card to your graveyard, then roll a d20. First one of these we've seen. If you roll 1 to 9, you can put that card on top of your library. If you roll 10 to 20, you put it into your hand.
Okay, so you actually have a better chance to put it into your hand by a little bit, so that's kind of nice. I do think it's really interesting. On a lot of these, you're going to see 1 to 9 and 10 to 20. So big important thing when you guys are playing in paper, some people will just instinctively see this and flip a coin. It's not quite a coin flip, but it, like, on first glance kind of looks like it is, so just be careful. I think this card is okay if you have good spells. The better spells you have in your deck, then the more happy you are to play this card. If you have a bunch of like random stuff that's kind of like befuddle, mediocre bounce spells, I would probably stay away from this expensive 3/4. But if you have removal spells, this is going to be pretty premium. I'm not happy about combat tricks either with this kind of thing. We're looking for removal or counter spells, things your opponents can't play around when you get back.
Yeah, this is going to be the best in your like Grixis colors, where you can get back red or black removal, or in its own color where you can get back card draw potentially.
That said, it's still pretty good, I think. I'm pretty happy to have this in most decks, but I wait to cast it. What do you think?
Agreed. Overpriced for its body, but the ability's good. I like it.
3?
Yep, 3 sounds good to me. I'm going to do a quick PSA along with your don't flip a coin on these cards. You need to roll an actual d20, not a spin down on these cards. Spin downs are not random. So if you're in paper, just keep an eye out for anybody trying to roll spin down dice instead of regular d20s.
So that's a big thing that has been, Wizards has been making like videos and stuff about it. And yeah. I do agree. People will try to cheat you at spin downs with like GPs and stuff. But if you're playing with your friends and you do one of these, that's still random, like whatever. So, take that with, be wary of it, but also don't be like, oh, we have to have this, I have to go buy a new set of dice because the spin down that came in my pre-release pack is no good. No, just don't cheat.
Agreed. Although that is the one nice thing Wizards is doing, is that the pre-release kits for this set, if you get one of them, has a real d20 in it.
Nice. They should give us 2 because that's going to be really a pain in the ass for life totals, but whatever.
Sure.
All right. Air Cult Elemental, guys, flying, and it's got Whirlwind, another not important ability thing that you don't need to know. When it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 other target creature to its owner's hand. It's a bit expensive. It's not a 4/4 for 6 like we saw with the dragon, but it's also common, and it bounces, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think this card's fine to play. Weird to have sort of the tempo effect on such an expensive card, but it's still a good card.
I think it's fine. I mean, a 2/5 that makes me think like you were saying, it's really expensive for tempo. It's also really expensive for a 2/5 that's more protective, right, to stop more aggressive decks. It's also not a big flyer that's going to close out the game. So it's doing a lot of things very badly, but it is a lot of things. So,
Yeah, the fact this isn't good for tempo really makes it seem like you're actually going to get more value out of this in terms of bouncing your own stuff for ETB effects sometimes, or getting them out from under auras. Things like that later in the game than you are just for forcing them to recast a 3 or 4 drop.
Unlike the last set where there was like way less auras, this one again now does have a white and a blue aura, so that's going to be more relevant. I will say I like this card. Like, I'm probably going to rate it pretty highly, but it's probably going to be on the low end of the spectrum because you only have room for so many 6-drops in your deck, right? So even though it's got a decent rating, I'm happy to play it. I would still rather be playing something else.
And keep in mind, vastly different from the last set. We've gone one color plus, and we haven't seen a single token yet.
That's true.
As opposed to Strixhaven, where they were everywhere.
3?
Yeah, I like the card. 3 seems good to me.
All right, we have another rolling card. We have an Arcane Investigator. So it's 2 mana for a 2/1, and then you can search the room. Roll a d20 for a, I know the Czech name. You read the card, I need to think.
Roll 1 to 9, you can draw a card. 10 to 20, you look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So a little less than half the time, you're going to just draw randomly, and the other half, you're going to get 55%. You're going to get to choose from the top 3.
It's a perception check. Perception. Okay, sorry. I got excited. I'm a D&D nerd, Yanks. Leave me alone. I'm feeling judged. So judged. Yeah, I like this card. It's a bit expensive, but it is something you can use over and over again. A 2 mana 2/1, it's not premium stats, but again, it gets better later in the game because drawing a 2-drop is usually god-awful late in the game, whereas this is like, okay, well, I'll play it this turn, and every turn from here on out, I get to draw a card if I don't draw something better to play. So that's kind of fine. I think it's a decent card. I'm pretty happy to put in my deck.
Yeah, it's expensive, but unlike most of the mana sinks we saw in white, you can actually activate this at instant speed. A lot of them were sorcery only in white, so that's nice, especially in blue with counter spells and instant speed card draw stuff.
Yep. What do you think in score-wise?
I think I still have it right around a 2. It's probably leaning towards 2.5, but that is really expensive.
It is, but I'm still, I think I'm still fine with that. I have it at a 2/5.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, Bar the Gate. 3 mana, counter target creature or planeswalker spell, and you can venture. We see this a lot where it's like got a very minimal effect added on to a counter spell, which makes it, you know, slightly more playable. Counter spells are much better in creature counters and things like that are typically better in slower formats, I think, like sealeds versus draft. But what do you think about this counter spell? You're the blue mage here.
I'll play this card. I'll definitely play this card in sealed. I'll probably play this card in limited. I still need to just try to get a handle on how much is venture into the dungeon actually worth. And that's going to depend on every deck. But the fact that it's two in a blue instead of double blue also makes it much easier to cast, which is nice. I think this card's a good card. Blue decks are going to want one of them, maybe even more in sealed.
Okay, that's high praise. I mean, I had it at like a 2.
Yeah, I think I've got it a little higher. I think I'm still probably at 2, but I'm close to 2.5, kind of like the last card.
That's because you're a filthy blue mage. Get out of here.
Again, it's going to depend on how much you really want to venture.
All right, the Black Staff of Waterdeep. Good board game too. It is a legendary artifact. You may choose not to untap the Black Staff during your untap step. Pay 2. Tap another target non-token artifact you control becomes a 4/4 creature as long as this remains tapped. Okay. So tokens, treasure tokens.
Nope, non-token artifact.
Oh. God, it's getting worse and worse. The more I read, the more I don't like this card. I thought about it, I'm like, this seems bad, but like, I guess treasure tokens, and then you took that away from me, so I literally get nothing.
Yep, I'm a fun ruiner.
I doubt there's going to be enough artifacts in this to make it worth it. It does make your equipment deck have a fallback plan if you run out of, like, crap to put your equipments on, I guess.
Yeah, I don't see much of a chance you're playing this card in limited. Suppose you could get some 9 artifact deck or something that you really want to, but that deck just sounds bad to begin with.
So what you're saying is I have to make this deck for the content.
Basically. Great.
I'm putting it at a 1. We're going to move on to the Blue Dragon with Lightning Breath. We were told that the Blue Dragon is indeed a Lightning Dragon. When it enters the battlefield, until your next turn, target creature an opponent control gets -3/-0. And up to one other target creature gets -2/-0, and the other one gets -1/-0. So you get to, you know, kind of shrink down their entire team. It's even more expensive, but it's a 5/5. We'll have to see what kind of removal spells are in red burn-wise to see if 5/5 versus 4/4, like how much of a difference that makes. how many more things it can dodge, essentially.
Yeah, I like the stats on this card a little bit expensive. I really don't like the ability. The -X -O effects generally don't do a lot, especially at sorcery speed.
Yeah.
But there are boards you can set up where that can be impactful, and I'll still probably play one of these at the top end just to have a 5/5 flyer.
I agree with that. Another thing is like flying decks sometimes have a little bit of trouble with like the race situation. So like this makes it so then you can attack into them, they can't really block, and they can't really attack you back. So now you've really set them back 2 turns in the flying race, which kind of compensates a little bit for flying decks falling behind a bit and not being able to race like someone just planting a 4/4 for 4 kind of thing. So that is a nice bonus, but it is very expensive. I agree, I'm willing to play one of these, but I'm not necessarily over the moon about it.
Yeah, and while blue might be lightning in D&D, I have a real problem with lightning not doing damage to things.
I agree. That is weird. Lightning breath, I guess, is different than a lightning bolt. I would much rather get hit by a lightning breath, I guess.
I don't know. I'm looking at the art. It feels like that should be doing damage to me.
You even pushed the one guy off the cliff. If you get pushed off a cliff by a lightning bolt, you're definitely going to die. I feel like this is a bit of a flavor fail.
Yeah.
What are you thinking score-wise?
I have this card at like a 2/5.
Okay, great. That's exactly what I have it on as well. All right, Charmed Sleep, guys. One of Blue's typical best removal spells. It enters the battlefield, tap target creature, enchant creature doesn't untap. We see this in like a wide range. Sometimes it's 4 mana, but it's flash, or sometimes it does whatever, or sometimes it's 1 mana, but doesn't tap. So we've got a wide range. This seems to be smack dab in the middle. I'm always happy to run these. It is 2 blue, so it's a bit harder to cast, but I'm still playing this every time.
Yeah, this is just your classic blue removal spell.
What do you have it at, 3 or 3/5?
I have it at 3/5 because we haven't seen a lot in the way of bounce, but we're also just starting blue, so we'll see if that holds up.
Even white didn't have like a ton of the, destroy target tapped creatures. So the removal side in these 2 colors so far seem very light, which is going to drive the value of this up because it's going to be your only option. All right, Clever Conjurer, guys. It is a 2/3 for 3 base stats for filler, and also untap target permanent not named Clever Conjurer at sorcery speed. So sorcery speed makes it a little weird for tapping and untapping things. It does let you ramp if you need to. It also lets you attack with something and then keep it back on blocks if it's bigger than this, which is kind of nice, but it's not going to be super relevant because sometimes blocking with your 2/3 is just better. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's mediocre ramp. If you have some things that have tap abilities, you can technically use them maybe twice in a turn, or give something better than this pseudo vigilance. It's got a lot of minor applications for an already okay body.
Yep, I think it's a 2. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
Like the text box doesn't make me excited, but I'm happy to run it if my deck could use the 3 drops.
Yep, agreed.
All right. Another die rolling card. I love the die rolling cards, and I love the D&D. I like everything Yanks doesn't like. Roll a d20 for 4 mana. At 1 through 9, you draw 2 cards. At 10 through 19, you scry 2, then draw 2 cards. And at 20, you scry 3, draw 3. So there is a pretty sweet critical chance hit here. I like that this card. So divination is sorcery speed. I'm willing to pay 1 more to make it instant speed, which this is. So already, which the worst case scenario is a divination for 1 extra mana at instant speed. I'm in. That's very playable to me. With a fair amount of upside, the crit being, a minor chance. I like that the die rolling is variance, but it keeps the variance very minimum. It's not a wide range. It's not a pass-fail kind of variance. It's a do a thing or do it slightly better, and I think that is a really good way to bring D&D into Magic without turning it into Hearthstone. Yeah?
Yeah, it would make it a worse card, but I would like the concept of the card better without the crit, but I know that's a D&D thing, so
yeah,
I think that's actually a really big
fun hater.
um,
Hater of all the fun things.
But the fact that nothing is a fail, I do like.
What are we thinking score-wise?
I think this card's probably a 3.
I also have it at a 3, but I usually have like a divination at a 3.
Yeah, I usually have divination a little bit lower, at like 2.5, which is, but I do like this card a lot. The instant speed matters a lot.
Of course, especially if you're running 4 of that counterspell I don't like.
Exactly.
Stupid blue mages. Ah.
This lets me draw those counterspells.
I can't wait till we get to the red and I can be like, yay, run amok, and you can be like, boo. All right, I'm gonna let you take this one.
That card isn't in this set.
Oh, please let it be in the set. Please let it be in the set.
All right, Demi Lich. 4 mana, blue, 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 blue for a 4/3. It costs blue less to cast for each instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn. Whenever it attacks, exile up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Copy it, and you can cast that copy. And you can cast this from your graveyard by exiling 4 instants or sorceries from your yard, in addition to paying the cost of this card.
It's a lot of text.
It's a lot of text. This card, not this anything with limited, but is chance to be absolutely disgusting in Vintage. And just be free constantly. In limited, however, this is going to cost you 3 blue, like triple blue, maybe somehow if you're lucky, double blue. So I'm not a huge fan of this card for limited.
That is a lot to ask. Most of your spells are likely to be blue when you're in blue, because that is a spell casting color. So then having to then pay an additional 4 blue seems very, very specific. Yeah, I don't think that this is going to be something I want to get involved with.
Yeah, and I'm not even seeing like things like Opt or something that would make this better. As cheap instants of sorceries, but again, that's still going to cost you blue. So, you could play this card, but I'm not going to be excited about it.
Yep. Score-wise?
I think it probably has to be in like the 1.5 range, just because it's so hard to make it work. It is good if you can get it out and you have enough stuff to get for free out of the yard, but it's going to almost always cost you that full 4 blue.
Definitely. All right, next one we have the Displacer Beast. It's a 3/2 for 3. Fine filler stats. When it enters the battlefield, venture into a dungeon for 4 mana. You can return it to your hand. And then you can presumably then venture again, but at a very expensive cost. But it's nice, it's like anti-removal. It doesn't say return at sorcery speed. So you can counter their removal spell if they're doing that. You can do all sorts of stuff. So I think this is fine.
Yeah, it lets me sit there holding counter magic up, and then when you don't play into it, I have something to do.
You're literally the worst. I don't know if I've ever hated you more. Like, you're about to lose your moderator status. I'm just gonna ban you from the channel.
While I'm talking on the channel?
Get out, Yanks. I like that adventure, like ETB Venture 3/2 for 3, I'm pretty fine with. The rest of it's just kind of fine. So I like this at a 2/5.
Yeah, I think it's a 3/2 with some upside.
Yep. I like a 3/2 that does nothing is like kind of our filler if you need it. And I think the Venture is slightly better than that, so it might probably be closer to a 2, but I don't know. I'm liking this dungeon stuff. All right, we have a Djinn Windseeker flying. When it enters the battlefield, roll a d20. Yes! All right. 1 to 9, Scry. 10 to 19, Scry 2. 20, Scry 3. Again, it's like there is no fail. Everything is kind of fine. It's a 4 mana 3/3 flyer, which is already better stats than we typically see for common. It's usually like 4 mana 3/2s that do nothing. So this is a massive upgrade from what we typically see printed in this slot.
Yeah, 4 mana 3/3 flying. Happy with.
With no downside.
With no downside, and scry 1, people say a lot of times is worth like half a card, and that's the worst case scenario on the ability.
Yeah, this is way, way better than our typical 4-mana flyer. Way, way, way better. So I like this at a 3.
Yeah, agreed.
This is starting to be the kind of common that you get excited about, that you're like, ooh, that was a gift when you get it pick like 6 or 7. You're like, yes, yeah, this is good. All right. Now on to, I haven't even read it yet, but I already know this is my favorite card in the set. It's a dragon turtle.
More than a jellyfish?
Yeah, probably. Dragons, turtles, jellyfish, they're like my favorite things. I don't want to choose. All right, it's a 3/5 for 3 with flash. This better have some sort of crazy downside, because otherwise this card is great. When it enters the battlefield, tap up to 1. Tap it and up to 1 other creature an opponent controls. They don't untap. Okay. So you can't surprise block them, but you can surprise don't attack them, and then attack them on your turn, right? Is that true? Is that how I'm reading this?
Yeah, I mean, you can't attack with this, but you'll be able to attack with, whatever else you have.
Yes, great. I mean, it's still amazing stats, right? For a 3/5.
Yeah, it's basically like if you had a tap target creature, doesn't untap with, the creature on suspend. It comes in the next turn.
Yes.
At a massively cheap rate. I think this card's great.
It isn't going to win the game on its own, so I'm a little hesitant to give it like a 4, but I think it's a 3/5. I mean, I like that it has flash, so you can kind of surprise them, but also we usually see this kind of ability on like a 2/2 flyer, which is also nothing to be sad about. So you're getting a slightly better stat base, which is more good against aggressive decks, but you don't get the like evasiveness. But yeah, I think this is great.
Yeah, and the fact that you have the fact that it has flash means that it, their creature misses 2 attack steps, yours only misses 1 if you do it before their attack step.
Yes, yeah. And anytime you can flash tap down their creatures, you can attack. Even if you're not planning on attacking with this, it could just be that your other creatures are lethal, that they won't see coming.
Plus, it goes in the theme deck I'm trying to make with creatures that have the same name as their creature types.
I'm sure that deck will be a hot mess.
Yeah, dragon, turtle, lizard warrior. It'll be great.
All right, I'm going to let you take this one.
Eccentric Apprentice. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, venture into the dungeon. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you've completed a dungeon, the 1 target creature becomes a bird with base power and toughness 1/1 and flying until end of turn. Next card.
Oh, sorry. Chat, forgive me. I'm the worst streamer ever.
So you 3-mana 2/2 flyer, your basic Windrake, but this has all sorts of upsides. You get to venture, and then later on, if you happen to have completed a dungeon, you can turn something into a bird until end of turn, either to give something of yours evasion, and get through if it has a whenever you deal damage to a player ability or something like that, or has equipment on it, or turn one of their things into a bird that can't really do anything but jump.
But that can no longer block exactly, feasibly. There's going to be a lot of times where a 2/2 for 2, just doesn't get in anymore, but you don't really need it as blocking, so you're not going to block on their like bigger creatures. So getting in that extra damage is just really nice. And getting to like polymorph a creature every turn on their side could be game ending as well. I like this card. We're seeing a ton of cards that are just the same as something else with upside, right? Like a similar mana cost and statted body, like you said, a Windrake with some upside. So what do we like score-wise?
I have this card as a 3. I really like this card.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think this is pretty premium. I'm actually even possibly leaning up towards 3/5 for it. For an uncommon, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, if you're able to easily complete the dungeon fairly quickly, then I think it probably does get up that high.
Yep. I think I'm a little higher on... I haven't been... Ever since cycling, I have not been sandbagging my ratings on Synergy quite as much, because these sets have been Synergy packed. And, coming from when I used to draft as a kid, as a young adult, like it was like draft good cards and they will get you there. And now it is a lot more Synergy oriented, and it does seem like they're designing the sets that way. So I've been getting a little bit more liberal on those ratings.
Yeah, that's fair.
We have a Trickster, 2/2 for 3 mana. Whenever you roll 1 or more dice, create a 1/1 blue fairy dragon with flying. Oh, I love rolling dice.
And you love fairy dragons.
I do love fairy dragons.
And you need to go to the next card.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I suck. Yeah, I'm in. 10 out of 10. Is that a rating I can give? No? Oh.
It's your article. You can do whatever you want. Every video.
I am the boss. That is true. I mean, it's not great statted. It doesn't fly on its own. So if you're not rolling dice, you're not happy to play this card. However, it is sort of like Roost in one of the whatever sets that was in, where it's like kicker spells. When you kick something, you make a dragon. So in the deck that it goes in, it's a home run. But this feels like a split rating to me, and we try not to split too often, but this is literally unplayable or going to do amazing things for you. I wouldn't play this even if you have a couple of spells that roll only once. I would want things that are repeatable as well.
Yeah, I want things like the Arcane Investigator where I can do it multiple times, or a large number of repeatable ones, or of one-shot ones like 6, 7, 8, single-shot ones before I want to play this card. But that will add up quickly.
So if these tokens didn't fly, I think it'd be like a 1/3. I'm going to give it a 1 and a 3/5 because they fly. So if you have the max amount of like replayable, if you're rolling a lot of stuff, this thing's going to get nuts. And I love that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I changed the card. I will forget next time though. 1 mana enchant creature. Enchant creature has flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you venture. I like to venture.
I'm just quite frankly stunned that the name Fly had never been used on a card before.
That is true.
Like, how has that never been used in 20-something years of Magic?
So I like this in, like, let's say a Simic deck where big things are getting in for a lot of damage. If you have a smaller low to the ground deck, I like this a little less, only because it increases your chances of getting 2 for 1, because you probably have to venture, like, what do you think, 2 or 3 times to get an entire card's worth of value? Because each floor is like, scry 1, make a 1/1 token kind of thing, so not worth a full card. So if you play this and they kill it right away, that's just the worst case scenario. I really like my auras to be impactful. Whereas this can get you a lot of slow value over time. I would almost like this. I'm picking these up, and then putting them in the sideboard sometimes. And if my opponent shows no removal, put them in there, put them all in there. But like, I am a little wary of this card.
Yeah, this is the kind of card that just seems like you're asking to get 2 for 1, and it needs to stay around for quite a while before you get your value back. So these are the kind of cards I tend to stay away from.
Now, if you are running the big green monsters, I don't know if green has the big green monsters, but I assume, then you get to play it on a turn that you are likely to make a big hit, and then I think that you can justify having it in a little bit more. But if, like I said, if you're putting it on a 2/2 for 2, then maybe hitting them isn't that important, and you're getting 2 for 1 too often to make this worth it. 2?
Yeah, agreed. I probably have it at a 1/5. But we're not that far off.
All right. Scary Art. It is a 3 mana 3/2, guys. Whenever a creature you control becomes blocked, you may return it to its owner's hand. I like that it's a may. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Whoa. You can attack with everything, and then the things that they decide to eat, you can then bounce and then draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, I'm feeling this card is going to get people in trouble, because people are going to do that, and they're going to draw a card, and then look at their hand, and they have 9 cards, and they can't replay anything. Because they just bounced 4 things.
So I was going to actually say that the 2 abilities are a little counterintuitive, because if you like alpha with like 4 dudes, bounce 2 of them because they're bad trades or whatever, then you get 2 cards back. You're going to end up drawing a lot more cards than you can cast, and then you could potentially get tempoed out in that way. So be a little careful. I highly recommend playing it with the Trickster with 1/1 flyers. That card's gonna be so much fun. But I mean, there's nothing not to like about this card. Just don't be a little overzealous with like returning your stuff, because board state is important. And if you're like, attack with everything, bounce all of my cards, draw 1 card, do nothing, it's gonna feel really bad.
Yeah. Nothing inherently wrong with the card, but just be careful.
What are you thinking score-wise?
I think because you're in blue, which tends to have a lot of flyers, so things that can get in pretty easily usually, I think this card's like a 3.
If your deck is a bit more chunked up, I think it's going to be a 3. If you've got some flyers or some evasive creatures, then I like it a bit higher. But yeah, it's definitely going to be heavily dependent upon how likely it is your creatures get in.
Yeah, and how much you want to return some of your own creatures for abilities as well. Sometimes you might just want to recast something.
ETB effects also kind of make this a bit better, which is neat. All right, so I'm just going to put it right in the middle. I'm going to put it like a 3/5 for me. Guild Thief, guys, a 1/1 for 2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on it. It can't be blocked for 4. So for 4 mana, it just gets bigger and bigger, and you get a little threat in. I like it. I mean, I don't love it, but it's a 2-drop. I'm not usually that picky on my 2-drops.
No, and it's one that can be, again, useful in the late game, which is nice. It's a 2-drop that's underpowered on turn 2, but overpowered late game.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, I've got this right around a 2, though, still. Happy to play it.
Also agree. Mythic Dragon. Desert Doom. It's a 5/5 for 5. Didn't we just see like a 9 mana 5/5? This is Mythic, it's fine. It has Ward 4 as long as it's untapped. We've seen that sort of a mechanic before, that if it's untapped, it's hexproof or whatever. So that's not surprising. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. If you have fewer than 3 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Okay, this seems...
Can I have 6 of these?
Yeah, it just seems like you answer it or you die, which is a 5 on our score. I should just change the title, like the score rating, to you answer it, you die.
Answer it, you die.
There's
what's there not to like about this card, right? Like, it's great.
Yeah, I agree. I also like that the big scary bombs in this are not like unanswerable like we've seen with things like Dream Trawler. This card at Mythic seems way less scary than Dream Trawler, but still very, very good. And that's how I like my limited games to play out.
Yeah, you've got good stats, it's got evasion. Anything that they do that shows that they're trying to move away from putting hexproof on things and doing other things instead makes me happy. And yeah, they can kill it. You can attack with it and they can kill it, right? That's the one time where you don't get your advantage out of this card, but the fact they can't do it on their turn, it's gonna have to be an instant speed thing.
Yep. I mean, it's still a 5/5 flyer for 5, even if it didn't have all the other things. Like, that's going to win you games a fair amount of the time. Even if they do answer it some of the time, like, you're still never sad about playing it. It's just a 5.
Absolutely.
Mind Flayer. When Mind Flayer enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature as long as you control Mind Flayer. 5 mana 3/3. I'm game. So it's kind of interesting because normally it's an enchantment that costs something similar. Sometimes it has like some restrictions, but the enchantment is harder to remove than a creature. But this is a bonus in that the creature can do damage and do other things. So normally a stealing enchantment is like a 1 for 0, right? Because you remove their creature, but you still get your creature. Whereas this is kind of a 1 for -1. because you get 2 bodies. But again, the downside is that a simple burn spell can undo it versus you need a bounce or something, right? Normally.
Yeah, there are upsides and downsides, like you're saying, for it being a creature. But these sort of effects are always very good. Sower Temptation was great. This card will be great.
What do you think rating wise?
I think this is like a 4 or 5.
Okay, I'm gonna put it at a 4. I will maybe bump it if there is not like, lightning bolts and stuff, but we'll see how likely it is that this thing sticks around. A 3/3 for 5 mana is usually not that hard to kill.
Yeah, that's true.
6 mana Planeswalker. It starts at a 5 loyalty, which is pretty high. Draw 2 cards, then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. That's a great +2 ability. Holy shit. -2, create a blue dog illusion. Creature token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to twice the number of cards in your hand. Also seems great. Right?
Yeah.
Exchange your hand and your library, then shuffle. You get an emblem with you have no maximum hand size. Boo. Well, whatever. I don't really care about that bottom part.
Yeah, that bottom part is you win the game. You now have your whole deck.
Yeah. But then you have to win in 7 turns. Or win in 3 turns.
That's true. Actually, I didn't think about that. That's a fair point.
Because in Limited, you're not likely to have a ton of cards there. Especially because you're only drawing 1 per turn.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you probably can't poop out that many cards, even late in the game. You probably actually, at +2 and starting at 5, you can get to 10 pretty quickly, but I don't think I'm doing that even if I can. I'm just going to make a lot of dogs. I think the dogs is amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, draws cards, protects itself with potentially pretty big things. I mean, yeah, if you play this onto if you top deck this, you can't really play this onto a threatening board because you would make a 0/0 token. But outside of that, it's pretty great.
I do like that the plus helps fuel the minus kind of in the long run, a little bit slower. But even though this is 6 mana, it is. What is that sound? Are you dead?
I'm here.
Oh. I thought maybe we lost you or something. I started hearing loud clicking sounds.
Oh, nope.
It is 6 mana, and it's not like as impactful as I would expect a 6 mana Planeswalker to be, like some of the Lilianas or Chandras we see typically. But I mean, this is going to eke out a ton of value over a long period of time, so I'm happier with it than I am most of the Planeswalkers we've been seeing. 4?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm between 4 and 4/5. It's right up there.
All right. Polymorph. This art's really cool. It's a dog turning into a dragon. 2 mana until end of turn. Target creature becomes a dragon with base power 4 and flying. 4/4 and flying. So you can use this in 2 ways. I can't imagine you would want to turn their thing into a flyer and surprise block it because it's smaller, but it's possible. And then you're likely to just make your thing a 4/4 flyer and hit them. It's instant speed or you block. So it might make a creature evasive and hit them. But I usually am not a huge fan of these kinds of abilities. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of these cards. They are situationally useful, but not something I want to main deck ever.
Yeah, so they're situational, and the situation they're good in is not great. So there's too often that it's not good. In order for a card that it has that sort of playability to be good, it needs to be a home run. Like it needs to be a 2-for-1 at minimum. Where this is just a 1-for-1 that's often nothing.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, Pixie Guide, a flying 1/3 for 2. Decent stats, I'm already playing it. And you can grant an advantage if you would roll 1 or more dice. Instead, roll that many +1 and ignore the lowest roll. So you just get a reroll.
Well, you would roll them at the same time.
Well, if you're taking the highest one, presumably, one is.
That's basically, yeah.
1 free roll, essentially. Yeah, I like this card. It's a small evasive creature that actually blocks more aggressive decks very well. And it's, a lot of them are 9 1 to 9 and 9 to 10. So the likelihood of one die being a difference is actually pretty high, considering they're pretty close to a coin flip. So I'm in for this card. It's like a 2 if you have no die rolling, but it's like a 2-5 if you do.
Agreed. That's right where I would have it. It's interesting that it does not give you any sort of option to take a low roll. I don't know if that would ever come up, but it hasn't so far.
What if you draw 2 cards, you're still good, but if you draw 3 cards, you mill out?
Yeah. And again, very corner case. It's probably going to come up very rarely, but it's not impossible.
Oh, wait a minute. Whenever you roll 1 or more dice. Poop. Never mind.
Nope.
I was hoping it said whenever you roll a dice. I was like, we get to make 2?
Nope. You just get 1.
The ruiner of all my fun. Jeez. All right. Power of Persuasion. When choose target creature an opponent controls, then roll a dice, return it to its hand 1 through 9, 10 through 19. Its owner puts it on top of their, or on bottom of their library, so that's pretty good. It turns it into a Burying Books. Kind of.
Yeah.
Or crit, gain control until end of your next turn. Huh. I feel like gain control might actually be worse sometimes.
Yeah, like there's a spot where you might actually want the 10 to 19 instead of the 20.
Yeah, or I could see a lot of spots where 1 to 19 is better than the 20. Like if they have so many creatures that you can't then attack with it or anything, and then they gain control back, you're not actually like mitigating a card or tempoing or whatever. So sometimes this could be good if you're at board stall, like even board, or if there's just not a lot of creatures on board, then it could be cool. But
yeah, I mean, you keep it until the end of your next turn, so they get it back the same time they would have if you put it on the top of their library and they drew.
But they have to recast it, and they got to draw other cards, which is a card positive.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. It's yeah, there are definitely scenarios where you would rather have the lower roll on this case.
Yeah, I think the only time I want the 20 is if I can kill them with it. Or sacrifice it. Oh, that'd be cool.
Yes.
Okay, so either way, I like bouncy spells, so I'm pretty happy with this card.
Yeah, 3-mana bounce spell with the potential to be a time walk by putting it on top of their deck is always good.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 2-5. It's sorcery speed, which is a big turnoff for a bounce spell.
Yep, 2-5 is where I had it.
All right, Ray of Frost. It's a 2-mana flash. Enchant creature. Enters the battlefield. If enchant creature is red, tap it. As long as enchant creature is red, it loses its ability. Enchant creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. Okay.
So this is interesting. Unlike the white, anti-black hate spell, this is playable against any color.
Yes.
Because it's much worse against not red cards, but you could 2-mana flash in something that's already tapped, and it stays tapped as long as it's something that you care about attacking and blocking, as opposed to just having access to their abilities.
So it's a little bit different. Like it's a similar ability to Charmed Sleep, but you got to take a beating from it first.
Yeah, you have to
cost one less.
Yeah, I mean, it's also good against something like that white tapper, right? They get to tap something down once, but then they don't untap ever again.
Yeah. Well, Charmed Sleep would do the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So score-wise on this, what are we thinking?
I was carded like a 2-5.
Okay.
It's not nearly as good as Charm Sleep, but it's cheaper and instant speed, so there are some good things with it, and it's fantastic against red.
Awesome. Very, very similar lines. I'm in the 2-5 to 3 range. We have a Frost Giant, Ward 3, 4/5 for 5. I like this card. This is a fine, like, medium top end. This will kill people.
Yeah, nothing flashy, but big body, you get the job done.
Yep. Score-wise?
Just around a 2-5.
Okay, I think I have it closer to a 3. All right, moving on. Scion. It is another die rolling card. It's a 2/1 for 3 with flash, and then you can Cone of Cold. When it enters the battlefield, choose target creature an opponent controls and roll a dice. 1 through 9 you can tap, so you tap on their turn, which is nice. 10 through 20, tap target creature doesn't untap, so it's possibly an instant cast. Tapper and or Frost Lynx with a slightly smaller body.
Yeah, this card's got a lot of options here, right? You can flash it in before they attack to try to stop them from attacking, or you can flash it in after they attack to trade with something and tap something else down.
Mm-hmm.
I like the flexibility there.
Definitely. I'm thinking like a 2/5.
Yep.
Secret Door. It is a 0/4 for 1 defender. For 5 mana, you can venture at sorcery speed. I mean, if I want to be venturing, if I've got payoffs for having completed dungeons, I'm happy to put this in my main, but typically I don't run a ton of dungeons, or I'm sorry, a ton of defenders. So I'm also happy to board this in against the more aggressive decks where I want this.
Yeah, I can't imagine playing this outside of
sideboard.
The sideboard.
All right. Sorcery speed, why? I mean, the dungeons are pretty wide range. I think most of them are sorcery speed. I think the whole venture mechanic might be a little bit too strong if you are instant speed. Shocking Grasp, neg 2, neg 0 until end of turn and draw a card. So it's a 1 mana less, but neg 2 less befuddle. And the fact that it draws a card always makes these a little bit more valuable to me. A lot of times you'll see these abilities on cards and I don't like them because they, don't get you much value. But the draw is nice, so I'm fine to run it, but...
Yeah, I'm almost never playing these type of cards unless they replace themselves in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But, -2, -0, most of the time this thing's just probably going to cycle, but you can occasionally get a kind of a 2 for 1 with it, or a 1 for 0, I guess.
Yep. 2?
Yeah.
Shortcut Seeker. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, venture. It is a 2/5 for 4, so it's a bit expensive for what you're seeing. It's nice against aggressive cards. I'm probably playing this in a 4-drop slot because, it's an okay body at 4 mana, and it has like the fringe benefit of doing a bunch of work if you're ahead on board, or if your opponent is stuck behind, whatever the case may be. So I think it's fine, but nothing too fancy because 2/5s are easy to block.
Yeah, this just seems like an awkward combination of stats and abilities.
Yeah.
Any 2/3 can just, or 1/3 can just stand in front of this thing all day. So, it's playable, but I'm looking for something better, most likely at 4 mana if I can find it.
All right, 2/5.
I've got it at 2.
Okay. I think I tend to be about a half a point higher than you on the venture in general, so that makes sense. Yeah. All right, Silver Raven, guys, enters the battlefield, scry 1. It's a 1/1 for 1. This will be pretty good on the equipped decks.
Yeah.
It's also an artifact.
Unless I've got artifact synergies or that equipment stuff, I'm not playing it otherwise, but it's fine.
Yep. I have it at a 1/5.
Yep, sounds good.
Great. All right, Soul Knife Spy. It is a 3 mana 3/2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now, this is the kind of card I would like to put Fly on.
Yes.
This might make it worth it to play cards like that. If you have a ton of these kinds of abilities, and you're likely, not just one, but it's got to be a few, then I'm, happy to risk the 2 for 1 because you're going to get value out of it.
Yeah, these are the kind of cards I like. 3/2 is fine stats for 3 mana. It's going to trade a lot of times, but okay, that's still a 1 for 1. And if you can freeze their creature in some way, or they kind of have to block this, so this makes a good combination with something like Shocking Grasp.
Yep.
Right, they kind of feel like they have to block it, maybe even with a 3/3, and then you can turn it into a 1/3 and steal a free card out of it that way.
I like this at a 3. 3/2s for 3 that are just base are filler at 2, and then this ability is gonna be really, really good.
Yeah, I'm with you there on 3.
All right, split the party. Choose target player. Return half the creatures they control to their hand, rounded up for 5 mana. I think this feels a little bit more sideboardy to me, just because oftentimes this will be a 5 mana bounce 1.
Yeah, I think this is sideboardy, or if your deck is likely just going to try to stall out a board, and you know that because you've got a lot of 0-4s and 1-3s and 2-5s and stuff like that without a lot of removal, then I might play this in main, but a lot of times it's going to be a sideboard. It does have pretty fantastic flavor text, though, with just don't.
Sorry, guys. Amy Borks.
But yeah, mostly sideboard card. There could be some control decks that'll be happy to play it in their main, though.
I think it's a 2. If you're light on playables, it's an okay risk. It's got a high upside, but, you know, it's medium at best.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, Sudden Insight. 6 mana, draw a card for each different mana value among non-land cards in your graveyard. Okay, that's kind of fine. Because by the time you cast 6, you're probably going to have a decent amount of stuff, right?
Yeah,
I'm not saying I love it, but...
Yeah, what are you happy with on this? Draw 4 or draw 3, I guess?
Someone in chat said better because it's graveyard. If it was board, it would be unplayable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 3 is the minimum. But again, 6 mana, a lot happens by the time you get to 6 mana.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be this is an interesting card. I don't really know how to evaluate because you probably can hit draw 3 fairly often, but it might be difficult to hit draw 4 because you probably don't have a lot of 1-drops in your deck.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think this card's probably playable and probably reasonable. I don't think I'm excited by it.
I would rather have the 4-drop divination spell. That was also common. Not even close. But yeah, I think this is playable if you have room and not a lot of top end, because 6 mana is expensive. So I'm going to give it a 2.
Yeah, I'd like to see the speed of the format will affect this card, definitely.
All right. We have a 3-mana sorcery. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until a player has exiled cards with total mana value 20 or more. Huh. There's a mill card.
Yeah, we haven't seen any other things that have anything to do with milling at all.
Yeah. 20 mana is a lot of cards, though, in Limited.
Yeah, but you know, if you're not actually trying to mill them out, you're talking like you got to hit how many cards before it really matters? 15?
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not happy to run this, but if we do see any other mill, like, it probably will hit enough cards to where it could do some work. We'll see. But yeah, this is more of a meme than anything. I'm going to put it in my Traumatized Guild Feeder deck. We're going to do that, but... Well,
that's for sure.
I'm going to give it a 1, guys.
Yeah.
Trickster's Talisman. It's an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has one of its creature deals combat damage to a player. You may sacrifice the talisman. If you do, create a token that's a copy of the creature. Kind of interesting. Oh, sorry, team. I was doing so good, too.
Yeah. Cheap cost, cheap equip cost. I always like, and it's a May ability, so you could just, if you have a creature you want to just keep as bigger, you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be good if you have some synergy with, like, having creatures be equipped, like the 1/3 kind of thing. And if this is the kind of card where the stronger your creatures are, the better it is, because if you're making more dragons, then sure.
Oh, definitely.
I could see this in like a token deck with a dragon on the top end. Like all your tokens get threadier, and then you get like double bombs late game. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this card, especially at an uncommon. Equip cost isn't too much. I think I'm playing this. This is like a 3.
Yeah, I'm a little lower, but I am playing this, so I've got like 2-5.
Target artifact or creature becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature for 6 mana. It doesn't say you control, so that's not like a bad thing. Or that's not a negative that often comes attached to this sort of card, but it, is 6 mana. So you can do one of two things. You can make your squirrel look like their dragon, or you can make your squirrel... Wait, I don't know which I said first, but you get the point. I'm very sleepy.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of this card. It's too expensive. You can't even really do it. I think a lot of people are suggesting in chat that you can't really turn this into a treasure token because they can just sack the token in response. And usually, we haven't seen the rules released for this card, but usually things like this would require them both to still be present for it to actually happen.
I mean, they might be tapped out, so you can happen. It could happen, right?
So you can sack a treasure for free.
Oh,
at any point.
Yeah. I don't know. For some reason, my brain went to food tokens.
Yeah. I guess you could target your own treasure token
and turn it into a dragon,
and turn one of their things into that.
Or vice versa. Dragon to dragon.
Yeah. But either way, this just seems very situational for a very expensive card.
Awesome. 1 it is. Wizard class, 1 mana. Yep. You have no maximum hand size. Irrelevant. Mostly. 3 mana. Draw 2 cards. So for 4 mana. So it's a little bit more expensive than a divination, but over 2 turns, which is fine. I'm probably still playing it. And then the 5 mana is whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So that's every turn. For the level 3, I like that a lot. The level 2 almost pays for itself, and then the bottom one is just like a long-term reoccurring bonus that will eke out a ton of like value over time. So I'm pretty high on this card.
Yeah, like you said, the first ability is kind of meaningless, but that's all right. I think the other 2 make up for it.
All right. So yeah, we're gonna put this at a 3/5.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, Wizard Spellbook. I'm gonna give this one to you.
Wizard Spellbook, 7 mana, 5 blue artifact. You can tap it to exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard, so not just yours. Only the sorcery speed, and then you would roll a d20. 1 to 9, copy that card, you can cast it. 10 to 19, copy that card, you can cast it by paying 1 instead of paying its mana cost. And 20, copy each card exiled with Wizard Spellbook. You may cast any number of those cards for free. I think this card is just probably too expensive to be good, although it's certainly powerful.
You may cast any number of copies. So can I just like, if I pick shock and crit, I can kill them?
No. It's you can, if there's, you track all the cards you exiled with this, so there's like 5 of them, say, you can pick any of those 5.
Oh, I see.
To cast.
Okay, I just read you may cast any number of copies. So I was thinking whatever you hit, you can copy as many times. Okay. All right, well, that makes sense. It is very expensive, but like getting to cast things over and over again tends to win games of Magic.
Yeah, I think that if the format is slow enough and you have enough good spells, this could be good because it's hard to rely on your opponents having them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's probably a spot for this in a slow control deck if the format's not too aggressive, which doesn't seem like it is. But yeah. I think in most decks you're not going to want to play this.
Wholeheartedly agree. So I think the line for that is like it's a 1/5. I mean, realistically, it's like a 1/3. Maybe this is worth a split rating. Actually, maybe I do give it a 1/3.
Yeah. Nope. I think this is a split card.
All right. Awesome. You come to a river. Would you like to ford or caulk?
Well, definitely not taking that ferry you took last time. So.
All right, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand for 2 mana at instant speed, so I like that. It's a good bounce. Or find a crossing, target creature gets +1 until end of turn. It can't be blocked. So that's kind of nice to get in some of your cards that like draw you a card when they deal combat damage, or they venture into the dungeon when they deal combat damage. I like that these cards are actually really good value for the mana cost. Normally when you tack 2 different abilities onto a card, it makes both abilities more expensive than they're worth individually, but these are kind of all fine. Like I would probably pay 2 mana for close to either of these. You know, the bottom one in this case is a bit worse, but that first white one was insanely good value. So I do like these.
Yeah, I like this card. I mean, just the 2 mana bounce on its own is a pretty good card, even if you didn't have the flexibility.
Mm-hmm. What do you like it as?
I'd be like a 3.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm on board with that. For the flexibility, I don't like bounce spells that don't then do something. Makes me a little sad because you're basically losing cards over a long period of time, but this gives flexibility, so. You find the villain's lair. Do you counter target spell?
Yes, I do. Sorry, there's another choice.
God, can someone ban him, please? Jesus. Or do you learn their secrets, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards? The draw 2, discard 2 is like nice late game if you are actively thinking about it and like, you know, holding back some lands kind of thing, or if you have any graveyard synergies that could be possible. This is likely going to be a counterspell. In fact, it's literally just counterspell but more flexible, because that's the same mana cost as counterspell. So whatever counterspell is, this is just better because you have some other options. But
yep, you really don't like this card, do you? Because you haven't slid it over.
Oh, that's just because I'm really tired. I'm sorry, chat. I'll be better tomorrow.
Always hating on blue cards.
I'll be better tomorrow, I promise.
Yeah, this is just cancel with upside. Makes cancel more playable, which is nice. Granted, the other option is pretty bad, but it's still something.
What are you thinking score-wise?
It's definitely worse than like the last one we just saw. I've got this probably just at a 2, actually.
Okay. I'm going to... I'll probably pop it up to a 2/5 just because I like flexibility. I value that very highly. All right. You see the guard approach. Do you distract the guard? Tap a creature. So much flavor. I love it. Or do you hide? Target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. I like the hexproof for 1. Again, this is like we saw 1 mana instant speed, hexproof, and +0/+3, so it kind of like doubled. This is the same sort of flexibility, which is really nice. I like this a lot.
Yeah, I think I think you're going to use this for hide most of the time, pretty much to counter a removal spell. But
yep,
the fact that it does do something else, it can help you get in for lethal or something, or get in to draw an extra card, or whatever is definitely valuable.
All right, I'm going to put it at a 3.
I've got it a little lower than that, but 2/5.
Okay. Maybe I'm a little scarred from +1/+1 and hexproof. Like the hexproof.
Yeah, that card is great.
Not even the +1/+1 side of it. Like that'll get you sometimes. But I like every day I play Magic and I'm like, this is a great play unless they have X. It's always that stupid card. And then they always have it, which is the annoying thing. And
they gave it to us 2 sets in a row too.
So it should be rarer in this last set, but I still get got by it all the time for the hexproof. 1 mana hexproof just gets people. Like it feels like there's always a good spot for it. So
that is true.
So I'm just a little like PTSD giving it an extra 0.5 point for that reason. All right, last card, guys. Move over the card like a good streamer. It can't be blocked as long as attacking alone. It's a 2 mana 2/1. That's kind of nice. When it deals combat damage to a player, enter a dungeon. Oh, this card's great. I love this card.
Yeah, this card is very good. pretty much get to trigger this whenever you want and demands a removal spell.
Yep. So. I'm playing this all the time. Is it a 4? I think it's a 4.
I think I have it a little lower just because on its own it's still just a 2/1. It doesn't have, and the adventure abilities aren't game breaking, but it is a very good card.
Yeah, they're not game breaking, but 2 or 3 triggers of it, and that's a lot of value.
Yeah.
And this, unlike a lot of the other creatures, guarantees you can get it in barring a removal spell. Like, you can decide to get it in versus like the 2/5 where you really can't.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely better than those cards, no question.
Okay. I guess, another thing too, like, we have to check out some of the other colors. Maybe this goes down if there's cards like Fungal Infection that deal with X1s very easily. Or what was the last one? Lash of Malice?
Yeah, I could the way you have some of these split card kind of flexibility, you could easily have a red card that deals 1 as one of the options.
Chandra's Pyrohelix, things like that will make this card worse. You could even drop it down to a 4 if it's very common to find answers to cheap things. So, yeah, I'm gonna bump this down half a spot, 3/5. All right, guys. So that is the end of our blue cards. I'm so sorry I'm lagging behind and not changing the thing sometimes. I do apologize. I've been trying really, really, really hard to stay awake. So thank you guys for watching. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of blue. Do you think we were far off on ratings for anything? I'm sure you guys do because, comments. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Leave them down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys. I'd like to give a special thank you to those of you who have signed up for our Patreon. I couldn't make this content without you. Also to Cool Stuff Inc. and KMC Sleeves for supporting the channel as well. Definitely check them out and use our discount codes to support the channel.